0547 local time, eastern Ukraine, Pokrovsk sector. The Russian column entered the open ground at 0547. By 0549, it was on fire, not from artillery, not from a missile strike called in from 40 kilometers back, from a drone the size of a shoebox costing $1,000 flown by a Ukrainian operator sitting in a concealed position 10 kilometers behind the line. The lead tank went first. The second vehicle pulled left to avoid the wreckage, and there was already another drone waiting on that line. The third vehicle stopped. Stopped vehicles are easier targets than moving ones. The operator already knew that. 3 vehicles, 90 seconds, 1 Ukrainian operator, no artillery request, no air support, no call up the chain. The column commander transmitted the engagement report. Somewhere in a Russian planning room, an officer wrote a unit designation next to a number that meant it had ceased to exist as a combat formation. This is not a rare event from Ukraine. This is Tuesday. This is every sector, every day along 1,000 kilometers of contact line. And the single reason, is something Ukraine has built that no military in history has ever built before. 3 questions before we get there. Why can Russia's most advanced electronic warfare systems that cost billions of dollars and were designed specifically to defeat drones, do nothing to stop what is hitting them? Why are 3 Ukrainian battalions holding a frontline sector against 3 Russian armies and have been holding it for months? And why is the International Center for Defense and Security reporting that traditional fortifications, trenches, dugouts, concentrated strongpoints have become not just difficult to maintain but unusable inside what Ukraine built? By the end of this video, you will understand exactly what the drone wall is, how it works at every layer, and why the most powerful armored force in Europe is paying for every kilometer of Ukrainian soil in a currency it cannot afford, and still advancing. How Ukraine built this. To understand what Ukraine has done, you need to understand where it started. Russia launches the full-scale invasion. Ukraine's conventional drone capability is essentially zero. No military program, no purpose-built fleet. What Ukraine has are DJI Mavic 3s, commercial quadcopters, the kind a wedding photographer uses. They tape improvised payloads to the frame and fly them over Russian positions to find out where the armor is. That is what the beginning looks like. Desperate, improvised, effective enough to survive. By 2023, FPV drones enter the fight in numbers. First-person view. The pilot wears goggles connected to the drone's camera. The pilot sees exactly what the drone sees in real time. The drone flies directly into the target. The drone is destroyed in the strike. The target is destroyed with it. Cost per strike as little as $1,000. Destructive capacity, a $3 million main battle tank, a $20 million helicopter, an armored personnel carrier, a command vehicle carrying a general, a logistics truck keeping a Russian battalion and ammunition for 3 more days. The arithmetic is catastrophic for Russia. By late 2024, Ukrainian commanders are reporting that drone units account for 70 to 80% of Russian frontline casualties. Not artillery, not tanks, not infantry engagement, drones. The Atlantic Council confirms it. The New York Times confirms it. The International Center for Defense and Security, based in Estonia, publishes the assessment. By 2025, a kill zone had deepened to perhaps 35 to 40 kilometers along the contact line, 35 to 40 kilometers deep, along 1,000 kilometers of front. Any Russian movement inside that envelope, soldier, vehicle, tank, command post, supply truck, detected within minutes, engaged within minutes. Ukraine did not build a defensive line. Ukraine built a kill zone. How the kill zone works: 0647 local time, the contact line, eastern Ukraine. A DJI Mavic reconnaissance drone has been airborne for 2 hours, flying slow, deliberate circles at 400 meters. Camera coverage, a grid square 7 kilometers across. Below it, an open field, a tree line, a dirt road heading north. Nothing moving. Then something moves. A Russian logistics vehicle emerges from the tree line on a track the crew has been watching since dark. They think it is unmonitored. They need to cross 600 meters of open ground to reach a forward position. 600 meters. They have done this before on other roads. It worked before. The ISR drone operator calls it immediately. Target type, grid reference, direction of travel, speed. The FPV strike team is already spinning up. Time between first detection and drone launch under 4 minutes. Time the vehicle has before impact less than that. This is the kill zone architecture. and it has 3 layers operating simultaneously, not sequentially, simultaneously. Layer 1, persistent surveillance, DJI Mavic Pros, military reconnaissance, UAVs flying continuous coverage over the kill zone around the clock. When something moves, the surveillance layer sees it within minutes. Target data goes to the strike team in real time. Layer 2, FPV strike drones. The pilot wears the goggles. The drone sees what the pilot sees. The FPV flies directly into the target. Per the Atlantic Council, FPV drones function as the infantry of drone warfare. Ukraine produced approximately 4 million FPV drones in 2025. The stated goal for 2026 is 7 million. As of February 2026, approximately 9,000 drones are operating across the front every single day. 9,000. Layer 3, fiber optic drones. This is the layer that broke Russia's counter strategy, and most people do not know it exists. A standard FPV drone communicates on radio frequencies. Russia spent years and billions of dollars developing electronic warfare systems specifically to jam those frequencies. Cut the signal. The drone loses guidance, falls harmlessly. Russia deployed those systems across the front and degraded Ukrainian FPV effectiveness significantly. Then Ukraine deployed fiber optic drones. The concept is simple. A thin filament of optical cable spools out behind the drone as it flies, connecting the drone directly to the pilot's controller. No radio frequency, no wireless link, nothing to jam. The pilot's signal travels down the cable at the speed of light regardless of what Russia's EW systems are broadcasting. The 12th Special Forces Brigade Azov deployed them near Kharkiv in early 2025. The doctrine spread to every sector within months. Initial range, 10 to 20 kilometers. By February 2026, 40 kilometers behind the front line. Russia's billion-dollar electronic warfare investment does nothing. Nothing. And now run all 3 layers simultaneously and look at what Russia is actually facing. Persistent surveillance sees every Russian movement within minutes of it happening. Day, night, in smoke, in rain. FPV strike drones launch immediately and cost $1,000 to destroy a vehicle worth millions. Fiber optic strike drones reach 40 kilometers behind the line, where Russian commanders assumed they had freedom of movement, and they cannot be jammed, spoofed, or deflected. Now add one more capability that entered service in April 2025, the Sky Sentinel, an AI-operated M2 heavy machine gun turret, developed by Ukraine, that integrates with drone detection radar, electronic warfare sensors, and human fire teams into a single layered defense. Announced by Ukraine's defense ministry, the Sky Sentinel deploys AI-triggered engagement of low and slow drone threats, backed by interceptor drones and human operators in the same defensive architecture. The Kherson sector tested this. Interception rates for incoming Russian drones in that sector went from 80% to 95%. The kill zone does not just threaten Russian offensives, it protects Ukrainian positions against the mirror threat Russia has been developing in parallel. What the kill zone actually destroyed 0923 local time, Pokrovsk sector. 3 Ukrainian drone battalions of the 425th Separate Assault Regiment, call sign Skylia, are holding a sector of the Pokrovsk front. They are holding it against 3 Russian armies. Let that register. 3 battalions, 3 armies, a force ratio of approximately 1 to 10 in Russia's favor. Under any conventional military doctrine in the modern era, that position does not hold for a week. Under any doctrine built before drones, that position is overrun, encircled, and eliminated in days. The position has held for months. Per drone-warfare.com, reporting from April 2026, Skylia's 3 battalions maintain persistent ISR coverage over their entire sector and execute rapid strike capability against any Russian. Concentration inside the kill zone. Russia has thrown 3 armies at this position. Russia has taken ground. Every meter has cost them in tanks, personnel, time, and command capacity that no conventional military calculation was built to absorb. Here is the doctrinal impact that no one is properly connecting. The entire theory of combined arms warfare, the doctrine that has dominated ground combat since the Second World War, depends on one operational principle: concentration. Mass enough force at a specific point to overwhelm the defender at that point. Create a local superiority in tanks, infantry, and artillery. Break through, exploit. That is the doctrine every great power military has built on since 1945. The drone wall breaks concentration. The moment Russia masses, puts armor together, assembles infantry, builds a logistics column to sustain an offensive, the surveillance layer sees it. The strike layer hits it before it can move, before it can execute, before the concentration becomes the force ratio advantage it was assembled to create. Russia cannot mass. Russia cannot concentrate for a decisive attack. Russia must advance in small dispersed units, which are individually easier to attrite, easier to slow, easier to destroy in detail. Russia's single greatest military advantage over Ukraine, mass, has been neutralized by a drone costing $1,000 flown by a 22-year-old in a dugout. Per the International Center for Defense and Security, traditional fortifications, wide trenches, company-sized dugouts, concentrated strongpoints have become highly vulnerable and increasingly unusable inside the kill zone. Russia cannot defend inside it effectively either. The architecture neutralizes both offensive mass and defensive concentration simultaneously. Admiral Tony Rydakin, UK Chief of Defense Staff, assessed this directly. Ukraine's drone capability represents the most significant shift in land warfare since the introduction of the machine gun. Not since precision artillery, not since the anti-tank missile, since the machine gun. The numbers in the race day 847. Operation Tempo, February 2026. Ukraine strikes 105,200 targets in a single month. 105,000 targets in 1 month across one front line. That is more than 3,400 strikes per day every day for 28 consecutive days. The peak daily strike rate of Operation Desert Storm, the most intensive air campaign the United States had run in 30 years, was approximately 3,000 sorties per day for 43 days against an entire country. With the combined air forces of 35 nations, Ukraine, with drones costing $1,000 each, is executing a sustained strike rate that numerically matches the peak intensity of the Gulf War at a fraction of the cost along a single contact line. Per drone-warfare.com, approximately 9,000 Ukrainian drones are operating across the front daily. Per the Council on Foreign Relations, Ukraine produced 4 million FPV drones in 2025 and is scaling towards 7 million in 2026. The financial arithmetic is irreversible. The United States spent approximately $60 billion on the Gulf War air campaign. Ukraine is executing comparable daily strike volumes at a cost that a mid-sized manufacturing operation can sustain indefinitely. That is what the kill zone costs to run, and the cost of running it is paid by specific people in specific positions. Ukrainian drone operators are now the highest priority targets on the Russian battlefield. Not the artillery positions, not the command bunkers, the drone operators. Per the New York Times, Russian forces attack confirmed drone operator positions with 1,000-pound glide bombs, munitions designed for hardened buildings and defensive fortifications now used against two-man teams in dugouts. Sergeant Major Vasil, FP's drone pilot with the 12th Special Forces Brigade Azov, said it directly: "If they detect a drone operator, everything is thrown at us." So the operators move. Constantly set up, launch, break down, move, set up again. Because staying in one position long enough for Russian signals intelligence to fix it means a $500,000 glide bomb lands on the dugout. That is the cost of the kill zone. And Russia is adapting. Russia's response is parallel doctrine. Russia is building fiber optic drones of its own. Russia's fiber optic cable manufacturing capacity, specifically the Saransk factory, which Ukrainian strikes have targeted, gives Moscow a material edge in the cable filament the drones require. Russia is scaling Geran 2 production toward 1,000 drones per day. Russia's FP5 production is climbing to match Ukraine's output. Russia's calculation is not subtle. If the kill zone is what stops combined arms, then Russia will push cheap drones through the kill zone to suppress Ukrainian operators, build its own drone architecture against Ukrainian positions, and use mass to absorb the casualties the drone wall inflicts. Russia is deciding every single day that the rate of loss is sustainable in exchange for the rate of territorial gain. Russia continues to take ground in Pokrovsk, Toretsk, and Chasiv Yar, slowly, expensively. The advances are real. The kill zone is not impenetrable. It is catastrophically expensive to penetrate, and Russia is paying the price anyway. Per GIS reports, 85% of Russian frontline targets were neutralized by drones in 2025, not destroyed in every case. Neutralized, suppressed, stopped. Made to stop moving long enough that the objective they were sent to take was reinforced, mined, or rendered untenable before they could reach it. Russia advances anyway. Because the Russian military has made a command calculation that no Western military doctrine has ever been designed to make. The acceptable loss rate, the number of tanks, the number of soldiers, the number of vehicles destroyed per kilometer of ground taken, is a number Russian planners have decided they can absorb. And they are absorbing it. That is the paradox at the center of this war. Ukraine has built the most effective defensive kill architecture in modern military history, and the side it was built to stop is still moving forward, at a cost that would have ended any conflict in the modern era, except this one. The race now is not about which drone is better. It is about which side runs out of operators, production capacity, and political will first. The offshore extension and what comes next. April 23, 2026. The Black Sea. A Ukrainian unmanned surface vessel, a drone boat, no human crew, is operating in the Black Sea. It identifies a Russian Shahed drone inbound. It launches a Sting interceptor drone from its deck. The interceptor meets the Shahed in midair over open water. The kill zone just went offshore. No land, no fixed position, no operator behind a contact line. A crewless vessel operating autonomously, executing a drone-on-drone intercept over open water, using the same integrated detection and strike architecture that Ukraine built on land over 3 years. The architecture is not confined to the 1,000-kilometer contact line. It is expanding. NATO is taking notes. Per the Atlantic Council, NATO is actively exploring the creation of a drone wall along the alliance's eastern flank, applying Ukraine's doctrine to the Baltic states, Poland, and the gaps the alliance has identified in its conventional defensive depth. Per the Council on Foreign Relations, the lessons from Ukraine's kill zone are being studied by every nation that faces a numerically superior adversary. Taiwan facing China, South Korea facing North Korea, U.S. Pacific Command planners running China scenarios. The doctrine that emerged from 3 years of improvisation in a country that started the war with commercial quadcopters may define how the next 2 decades of land warfare are fought globally. An entire theory of military power, built on the assumption that mass, armor, and artillery decide ground combat, is being dismantled in real time by cheap weapons flown by soldiers in dugouts along 1,000 kilometers of Ukrainian farmland. Russia entered this war with the largest armored force in Europe. 2 years of Western sanctions later, the tank production lines are running, the artillery stockpiles are replenished from North Korea, the infantry replacements come from mobilization waves that continue despite the losses. Russia is not running out of the inputs that feed the kill zone, and Ukraine is not running out of the drones that run it. The war is a race between industrial production, operator endurance, and the willingness of each side to absorb what the other is doing to them. One strike at a time, 9,000 drones a day, every day. An operator in a dugout near Pokrovsk puts on his goggles. His surveillance feed shows a Russian armored vehicle crossing open ground 3 kilometers ahead. He launches. The vehicle enters the camera frame, the distance closes. It has been 3 years of this. 7 million drones are coming in 2020s. Russia spent 20 years building the most powerful armored force in Europe. Ukraine built a wall of $1,000 drones. The armored force moves anyway and dies for every kilometer.